Rich landowner disguises as homeless man to test his bride. Her incredible reaction revealed. Jake Reynolds peered out of his penthouse window overlooking the shimmering skyline of Chicago, his heart storming with unease. On the surface, he had everything: a booming career as a real estate developer, a luxurious lifestyle, and a beautiful fiancée, Emily. Yet, the thrill of success felt tainted by the nagging voice in his mind. Did Emily really love him? Or was it just his money that had captured her heart? It gnawed at him relentlessly, a doubt he couldn't shake. In a moment of desperation, Jake devised an outrageous plan. He disguised himself as Joe, a scruffy homeless man, hoping to witness Emily's genuine interactions with the people he often overlooked while living in his ivory tower. Stepping into the gritty streets of Chicago, he felt the weight of his choice settling heavy on him. As the sun crested above the skyline, illuminating the city with warm hues, his heart sank into a darker place. The dissonance between his life and the reality outside felt jarring. In the heart of a bustling park, Jake watched in awe as Emily worked her magic, her smile brightening even the most sorrowful faces. She was an angel, a goddess among the broken. With each sandwich shared and each blanket given, his heart twisted with a mixture of admiration and unease. She seemed so alive, so passionate in her purpose. Jake felt dwarfed by the enormity of her kindness, realizing that his own world was a far cry from the struggles faced by those around him. Could he really stand beneath her light when his shadow harbored insecurities? As he observed, internal questions churned within him. Was he just another figure in a charitable story, a placeholder for the era of great wealth? Did he truly bring her joy? Or was he simply a reflection of what she believed should be by her side? The tension mounted with each passing moment as he noticed her genuine connection with the homeless community. He couldn't help but question whether their relationship was just one more transaction in the complicated currency of kindness that she dealt. Before he could process it fully, chaos erupted. A frantic man, wild-eyed in desperation, accused Jake of stealing food meant for someone else. The accusation echoed through the park, attracting a crowd, and Jake's pulse quickened. Panic surged. He was no longer an observer. He was cornered in a reality he never intended to confront. Emily, with her fierce compassion, lunged to defend Joe, advocating passionately for understanding over judgment. As tension among the onlookers escalated, Jake's heart raced, constricting under the weight of self-inflicted torment. In the midst of this turmoil, Jake's mind spiraled. Should he reveal himself? Was the truth worth risking everything? Or should he allow Emily to believe in this deceptive version of him, letting the charade spiral further into a web of deceit? With every passing second, the illusion of safety dissolved, and dread seeped into his bones. Would this moment become a defining choice, unreadable and destructive? Choices festered like an open wound, leaving him disoriented and anxious. Just then, silence enveloped the park as all eyes turned on him and Emily. The strained atmosphere wrapped them in a cocoon of palpable uncertainty. Jake felt the walls closing in around him, the stakes never higher. Should he confront his demons, or flee from them into further obscurity? As he stood there, caught in this harrowing crossroad, everything hung in the balance, a single decision that would define his love and identity. Would he be brave enough to face the truth? The world waited, breathless, as Jake grappled with the agonizing choice before him. As the stillness stretched awkwardly, Jake's mind raced through an avalanche of possibilities, each one more chaotic than the last. He felt as if he were trapped in a cage of his own creation, each bar representing a lie he had woven around his identity. The weight of Emily's unwavering gaze saw through him, her kindness transforming into an unyielding force that threatened to crush him under its scrutiny. Could he bear to keep pretending, or was it time to confront reality? In that suspended moment, something shifted within him. The realization washed over him like ice water. This charade was not merely a test of Emily's character. It was a self-serving illusion crafted from his insecurities. The revelation ignited a fire in his chest, illuminating the dark corners of his doubts. Whoever he was, the man in front of Emily at that moment was no reflection of his worth. It was the fear of vulnerability that needed to be vanquished. Jake took a deep breath that felt like a cleansing storm, clearing the fog of trepidation that clouded his mind. The voices around him muted as he grasped the critical pivot of his decision. He could either retreat back into the shadows of his masquerade or step forward into the light of authenticity, however painful that revelation might be. As if guided by that newfound strength, he felt his lips parting before he could second-guess himself. "Emily, wait," he declared, his voice breaking through the thick tension clinging to the air. The crowd stilled, eyes darting between him and Emily, a living tableau of anticipation. "What?" she asked, the kindness in her tone shifting to concern as she processed his sudden urgency. "I need to tell you something." The words tasted foreign on his tongue, yet they felt essential. A tremor racked his body as he began to peel back the layers of his deception. "I'm not who you think I am. I'm not just Joe. I'm Jake, and I've been testing you." The confession spilled forth unfiltered, each syllable carrying the weight of his unguarded fear. Shock crinkled her brow, and for an instant, the softness of her compassion seemed to harden. "You've been lying to me? About who you are. I don't care about the money or the status," he rushed to explain, the tremors of vulnerability threatening to shatter his composure. "I needed to see if you could love me without the facade of wealth. Seeing you here, right now, it made me realize how distant I've been from what truly matters. I was scared that you wouldn't love me if you knew the real me." As the confession hung in the air, the reactions of the crowd faded into the background. Jake was intensely aware of Emily's expression, an intricate blend of disbelief and concern that morphed into an unexpected softness. "Jake," she said, her voice a soothing balm, "why wouldn't I love you for who you are?" Compassion poured from her as she stepped closer, bridging the chasm his deception had birthed. The echo of her kindness carved openings into his hardening heart. Yet, within him wrestled a lingering doubt: had he done irreparable damage to their relationship? Jake realized the tension wasn't over. Instead, it morphed into something deeper. The stakes had shifted. No longer was it just about testing Emily, but also about confronting his own self-worth and vulnerability. Could he allow her to see him, unguarded and raw? Would she still choose him after this revelation? Or would he lose her trust forever? The world held its breath as they searched for understanding in one another's eyes. Where love was supposed to dwell, uncertainty now lingered. Time hung heavy, the horizon of possibility stretching out before him, filled with the promise of authenticity or the dread of abandonment. The moment demanded reckoning, and in that stillness, Jake could feel both hope and fear entwined, each vying for dominance in his heart. Finding the courage to face the consequences of his truth was just the beginning. He understood now that this was bigger than just him. It involved Emily's feelings, and her choice loomed like a thunderstorm ready to break. Could he truly own the man he was destined to become? The charged silence enveloping them stretched like a taut wire, and Jake's eyes searched Emily's for a cluesome sign that his vulnerability would not lead to disaster. He stood, teetering on the precipice of uncharted emotional territory. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on him, and he felt the need to fill that silence, to unearth the questions threatening to drown him. "Can we talk about this?" he finally managed, his voice low but urgent. As he spoke, he felt an ember flicker to life deep within him, the persistent drive to seek clarity amid chaos. Yet, the uncertainty of how she would respond tugged at his insides like a vice. "Talk?" Emily echoed, confusion etching her features. "You've been living a lie, Jake. I don't even know what to think right now." Her words, though measured, struck him like blows, each syllable a reminder of the treachery he had set in motion. Regret washed over him, but it compelled him to respond rather than retreat. "I know I messed up," he said, desperately grasping for the heart of the matter, "but I need you to understand why. It's not about manipulating you. It was my way of confronting what I feared most." She took a step back, muscles tensing as if preparing for a fight. "What you feared most? Or what you thought you could toy with?" The sting of her words cut deeper than he anticipated, the realization dawning within him that she was affected by his deception as much as he was by guilt. The tug-of-war between their emotions felt palpable, a dance precariously balanced on the edge of honesty and distrust. Emily, those moments we shared were real. I didn't want to deceive you. I wanted to challenge my own assumptions about love and worthiness. I thought I could control the outcome by living in a different skin. He implored, hoping to mend the fraying threads of their connection. Control? She scoffed, hurt darkening her brow. You thought you could control how a person feels about you by pretending to be someone else? It's not a game. With each accusation, Jake felt layers of his superficial identity she had admired peeling away, exposing the raw need for acceptance that lay beneath. They stood amidst the echo of chaos he had invited, and he knew he had to dig deeper not just for her forgiveness, but to reclaim the pieces of himself shattered in the process. I've always been afraid of showing who I truly am, he confessed, the tremor in his voice revealing the truth of his struggles. I thought if I wore a mask of success, it would shield me from rejection. But you showing me kindness in every moment shattered that illusion. I need a chance to show you the real me without the distraction of wealth. It's terrifying, but I want to learn who I am with you. As he spoke, a flicker of something softened in her eyes, a trace of hope weaving through the uncertainty. Are you saying you plan to leave behind this facade? Yes, he replied. I want to step into my truth, raw and unfiltered. If you're willing, I want to explore what that means for us. The weight of his words hung in the air, vibrating with potential. Emily's hesitance revealed the gravity of his confession and the trust that would need to be rebuilt. It was a daunting task, but he could almost feel the invisible threads binding their hearts already strengthening, albeit tenuously. What if you choose wrong again? She whispered, voice trembling at the implication. Then I'll accept the consequences, no matter how painful. He took a step closer, heart racing with determination. But it has to start now. I can't live under that mask any longer. Time stretched, every second pulling at the delicate fabric of their relationship, sewn with fraught misunderstandings and possibilities. Just as he began to feel that flicker of optimism surge, she stepped back, uncertainty still weighing heavily. Jake, it's not just about you anymore. I have to think about myself too. The words settled like stones in his gut. They were an echo of the emotional complexity he had been so blind to, but in that very moment, he recognized the next challenge awaiting him, not just reconciliation with her, but a need to redefine his priorities and values apart from her reactions. Leaving Emily's presence, Jake felt both the burgeoning potential of authenticity and the cold reality of what it would cost him. What would it take to show her he could respect her boundaries as he reconstructed his self-image? Could he navigate the fine balance of remaining true to himself while honoring her choice, a reality where honesty reigned but honesty would not always lead to acceptance? The stakes had never felt higher, the future suddenly unfolding like a complex puzzle, each piece demanding to be understood before the picture became clear. The door clicked shut behind Jake, the sound resonating in the hollow space of his mind. The weight of Emily's words echoed, leaving him grappling in a tumultuous sea of regret and resolve. With each step away from her, he felt the invisible chains of his past tighten around him. But the quest for authenticity was now ignited, compelling him to forge a path that had long lay obscured by wealth and pretense. As he wandered through the quiet streets, shadows danced around him, merging with his tangled thoughts. The world buzzed with life, yet he felt like a ghost passing through, disconnected from the vibrancy that once filled him with ambition. He needed to regain that vibrancy. It wouldn't come without pain, nor without facing the truth about himself. He found himself at a local coffee shop, a place bustling with energy, laughter, and the rich aroma of fresh brews. Pulling open the glass door, he instantly felt a shift in atmosphere. It was comforting yet jarring. The laughter of patrons echoed like a distant memory, a reminder of the self-assured person he used to be. The soft chatter reminded him of the conversations he had with Emily, the laughter they shared, but now they felt laced with the poison of his deception. Grabbing a seat at the back, Jake's fingers drummed restlessly on the table, anxiety brewing like the steam from the barista's machine. In this moment, amidst the cheery chaos, a realization washed over him. He had an opportunity to redefine his life. No longer would he hide behind the guise of wealth. He could begin by reaching out, grasping for connections grounded in honesty. His heart raced as he opened his phone to check messages, an uncharacteristic wave of vulnerability spilling over him. He looked out the window, observing a couple laughing over their drinks, and a pang of longing twisted within him. How could he orchestrate a life that was as rich in authenticity as it had been in facade? Perhaps he could begin small, reaching out to old friends, acquaintances, maybe even those he had dismissed during his climb to success. Suddenly, he noticed the barista, a young woman with a friendly smile, taking her time with each customer, engaging with them personally. It struck him she brought warmth to an otherwise routine transaction. Intrigued, he approached her after placing his order. "You create a welcoming space here. Do you realize how much that matters?" he said, the sincerity in his tone surprising even himself. She looked up, caught off guard by his unexpected compliment. "Thank you. I just think everyone deserves a moment of kindness. Life can be hard, you know?" Her words resonated deeply. They challenged him to reconsider how he had operated, not just on a personal level but professionally. Had he fostered an environment of kindness in his life? The reflective thought pinballed in his mind, colliding with the echo of Emily's cautious words. "I have to think about myself too." Yet what self was he nurturing? One built on the fragile foundation of deception. Resolved to build anew, he struck up a conversation with the barista about her aspirations. Learning she was studying to become an artist. Her passion was palpable, a beacon of authenticity. He felt an unfamiliar excitement growing, a desire to show his own creative aspirations, the writing he had shelved amid the avalanche of expectations. He had hidden that part of himself too long, allowing fear to dictate his choices. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Jake began to unearth layers of himself long buried under the weight of societal expectations. He enrolled in a local writing workshop, a daring step forward into the realm of vulnerability. Each session carved away at the husk he had formed, exposing raw ideas, pieces of his true identity. Here, he found not just solace but passion, a passion that lit a fire in his soul, pushing him to explore the narratives that he had silenced for too long. As he lay in bed each night, the parallel paths of rebuilding himself and respecting Emily's boundaries became clearer. However, each step forward was tainted with the lingering fear of rejection. Would she welcome the new design of him? The fear knotted in his stomach again, reminding him that the future was a fickle mistress. But he realized the tension was not just about pleasing Emily. It was about accepting himself. The next time he saw her, it had to be as an authentic version of Jake. There would be no walls between him and the truth of who he was. But deep within, a looming question remained: how would he handle Emily's choices, the potential of her moving on while he crafted his new identity? Jake's heart beat with a synthesis of hope and dread. The time drew nearer for their paths to cross again. Would he be brave enough to invite her into his newfound reality, despite the uncertainty? Days passed with anticipation building, the moment of truth inching closer. What awaited him at that next encounter? The air in the coffee shop felt thicker than usual, laden with the weight of impending decisions. Jake sat at his usual spot, tapping his fingers nervously against the table. The buzz of conversation encased him, but he felt far removed, ensnared in a web of self-questioning. In the wake of his newfound journey, he was painfully aware of the emptiness that once filled him with ambition and drive. A soft laugh erupted nearby, and Jake's gaze flicked to a group of friends reuniting, their familiarity striking a discordant note within him. He had once thrived in circles like those, the light-hearted banter, the shared memories, but something monumental had shifted. He was playing a game with different rules now, one that demanded authenticity over pretense. The barista, Sarah, breezed by, her movements effortless, a joyful spirit amid the morning hustle. She paused by his table, recognizing the distant look in his eyes. "You okay?" she asked, genuine concern etched on her face. Her question seemed to resonate deeper than he could articulate. "Not really," he admitted, surprised by how easily the words slipped out. "I'm just trying to figure out who I am again, I guess. everything feels different. Starting with a clean slate can be exciting, Sarah replied, her tone encouraging. It's a chance to become someone you've always wanted to be. Her perspective inspired something within him. It ignited a flicker of motivation. The inkling of curiosity about his true self was overshadowing the lingering fear of failure. As he left the coffee shop that afternoon, Jake vowed to take small steps each day, putting his past and insecurities behind him, unless they could serve as a bridge to a more authentic life. He decided to venture out beyond his comfort zone, small risks that would allow him to reconnect with the world. The following day, at the writing workshop, he chose to share a personal narrative, a piece about his childhood dreams, about the intense joy he'd felt writing stories that swept him away. It felt raw and vulnerable, but as he shared his struggles of losing that part of himself to his ambition, there was a palpable shift in the room. The supportive nods and affirmations from his peers deepened his resolve. Each word he spoke washed away layers of doubt, and for the first time in years, he felt a sense of clarity. Revealing himself in that way connected him to his audience. His words resonated, and he was met with bursts of applause that echoed in his heart. In the days that followed, he made efforts to reconnect with neglected friendships, people he had drifted away from while climbing the ladder of ambition. Their welcoming responses reminded him of the warmth he had abandoned, the laughter that filled the empty spaces in his life. Each conversation was a brushstroke in a new painting he was creating, one vibrant shade at a time. But with each stride toward self-acceptance, Emily loomed large on the horizon of his thoughts. Would she recognize the changes in him? Would she be able to see past the remnants of his past self? The uncertainty of her potential response gnawed at him, blending hope with the fear of rejection. He pondered reaching out, but what if her life had moved on? The anxiety of asking whether they could meet again mingled with a yearning for closure or possibly a new beginning. What if she did not see the brave man he wanted to be? Jake clenched his fists, weighing options, till finally, the calm was pierced by a surge of determination. He would write her a letter, pouring his heart out onto the page, revealing his intentions both to reconnect and to offer her the honesty she deserved. It would be an invitation into his evolving world, crafted by the newfound authenticity he'd embraced. He took a deep breath, allowing the anticipation to pulse through him. The moment had come he needed to act before fear halted the progress of reclaiming his true self. As he prepared to start his letter, a sudden realization struck him. What if Emily had been waiting for a sign of his growth? What if, deep down, she longed for authenticity too? Would she dare to step into his world? Jake's heart quickened. The moment of truth beckoned, laced with the promise of change and the tension of vulnerability. He picked up his pen, ready to document the evolution of himself for Emily to see. What awaited him when he finally placed that letter in her hands? Jake sat in his dimly lit apartment, surrounded by scattered papers and the vague aroma of stale coffee. His heart drummed a steady rhythm against his ribs as he held the pen poised above the crisp white page, aware that everything hinged on this moment. It was more than a letter. It was a gateway defining who he was now, a testament to what he wanted to become. The potential words swirled in his mind, but doubt threatened to crowd them out. Would he adequately convey the turbulence of his journey and the hope that lay beneath his uncertainty? He needed to capture the essence of his transformation without succumbing to the weight of his past. Inhaling deeply, he sought clarity. This wasn't just about Emily and their shared history. It was an opportunity to showcase the authentic Jake, shedding the remnants of ambition that had once consumed him. "Dear Emily," he began, the pen gliding over the paper. Yet his mind painted vivid landscapes of both joy and pain, memories intertwining in a tapestry of emotion. Each word felt like a small earthquake, shaking loose the silence around him. He acknowledged the mistakes he had made, the walls he had built, and how ambition had reshaped his identity into something virtually unrecognizable. It was a reckoning of sorts. He had to confront how his relentless chase for success had wrought loneliness and disconnection. Jake's thoughts flitted to their last encounter, the warmth of her smile juxtaposed against the cold reality of his withdrawn demeanor. He needed her to know that the man she once knew was still there, buried beneath layers of self-doubt and ambition-induced isolation. His pen flowed with sincerity. He wrote of dreams rekindled, of the laughter stolen and friendships neglected, painting a picture of a man who had suffered in silence and the catharsis that followed his revelation. With every line, he felt a surge of courage rising from the pit of his stomach. The letter metamorphosed into a personal manifesto, outlining not only the nostalgia he cherished but also the fierce desire to reconnect. "I've missed the person I was when I was with you," he penned fervently, realizing this wasn't merely a confession but an invitation to step into his newly refined existence, a life where authenticity replaced pretense. After penning the final strokes, he leaned back, feeling simultaneously liberated and anxious. What if Emily was uninterested in the man he had become? What if she deemed his effort unworthy or pushed him back into silence? Doubt skated dangerously close to paralyzing him once again, but he jolted back with an empowering realization. The risk of rejection was a small price for the chance to explore the depths of vulnerability. The sun began to set, casting long shadows that danced across the walls, mirroring the oscillating hopes within him. He held the letter to his chest, weighing it against the gravity of his decision. Could he summon the fortitude to deliver it? To face the potential consequences, whether they would lead to a rekindled connection or leave him stranded in heartache once more? In that moment, Jake recognized a key facet of his transformation. Growth demanded action, and action required courage. He needed to bear the weight of uncertainty if he was to reclaim his authentic self. With purpose, he rose from his chair, letter clutched tightly in hand. He was determined to confront this crossroads and test the waters of Emily's response. As he stepped out into the brisk evening air, the world around him seemed alive with possibility, each breath igniting a burgeoning hope. "Now I will wait for the answer that could redefine everything," he murmured, feeling all at once exhilarated and terrified. With each step toward her place, he grappled with ominous thoughts of vulnerability and growth, sensing that the true journey had only just begun. What would happen when he faced the pivotal moment of delivering the letter and the hard truth of his transformed self? The brisk air whipped around Jake as he navigated the streets, each step a mixture of longing and dread. The letter nestled safely in his coat pocket felt like a living entity, pulsing against his chest, urging him forward. With each determined footfall, uncertainties danced in his mind, reminders of who he used to be, and fears of who he might never become again. He was venturing into uncharted territory, his heart a compass that quivered with anticipation and hesitance. Reaching Emily's building, Jake paused before the entrance, the weight of the moment causing him to hesitate. He examined the familiar structure, noting the vines that clung to the brick and the soft glow from the windows above. This was where laughter had resonated, where memories rushed to the fore like an uncontrollable tide. Yet now it felt foreign, tainted by the ghosts of his past. "Can I really do this?" he whispered to himself, the gravity of the situation sinking in. He was no longer the man who had sheltered himself in ambition. He now craved connection, authenticity, and the warmth of human relationships. Was it too late to seek forgiveness from someone he had pushed away? Jake inhaled deeply, a surge of resolve filling the void of doubt. He stepped inside, the familiar bell jingling above him. As he climbed the stairs, each creak resonated with the hesitations echoing within him. His mind raced with images of their laughter and those moments where the world simply faded away, companionship unmarred by expectations or ambitions. At her door, he hesitated once more, heart pounding as he tentatively rapped his knuckles against the wood. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours, every tick of time amplifying his nerves. And then, her voice soft, curious, alive floated through the door. "Who is it?" she asked, and Jake felt the spell of vulnerability wrap around him like a warm blanket, but one frayed at the edges. "It's Jake," he finally managed, his voice quaking with emotion. Silence followed, pregnant with anticipation, until she finally opened the door. Emily stood before him, eyes wide and incredulous, her face framed by the gentle light of her apartment. Time seemed to stand still as they locked eyes, a silent recognition passing between them that only the deeply intertwined could ever understand. Noticing the tension etched across his face, she stepped aside slightly, inviting him in, yet there was a hesitation in her demeanor. He could sense the cautious curiosity lingering between them, as if she were deciphering the unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. "Jake? You look different," she observed, her gaze searching for the remnants of the man she once knew. Her words cut through the fog, and in that moment he felt both seen and exposed. "I brought you something," he blurted, retrieving the letter from his coat. It felt less like a declaration and more like a lifeline tossed amidst churning waters. As she took it, their fingers brushed, igniting a swirl of memories from a life less complicated. Jake's heart swelled with the intimacy of that simple touch, yet it trembled at the vulnerability laid bare. Would this letter convey the depths of his transformation, enough to bridge the divide between the past and this precarious moment? "I hope you'll understand," he began, voice thick with emotion, as Emily unfolded the paper, her brow furrowing in concentration while he observed her every reaction, every flicker of surprise or remorse. An overwhelming urge to explain, to unpack every word of his transformation surged within him. Each moment hung with the weight of unspoken words, and as she read, Jake wrestled with an evolving realization. This encounter was just as much for him as it was for her. It was pivotal, a moment to assert the progress he had made. But as he watched Emily's expression shift, something deep within Jake dredged up another layer of fear. What if she didn't share his desire for rekindling their connection? What if his journey toward authenticity met her walls of skepticism? The tension coiled around them, moments, heavy with uncharted potential, staring down the uncertain path that could either mend their worlds or sever them further apart. But it was too late for retreat. The pivotal moment had arrived, and each tick of time was a countdown to revelation. Could he truly handle the outcome that lay ahead? The air shifted subtly as Jake observed the flicker of emotions playing across Emily's face, her shuffling between confusion and curiosity, sending waves of anxiety through him. It was as if every moment stretched infinitely, time a thing he couldn't control, and he was left vulnerable in its grasp. "What do you mean, Jake?" Emily finally asked, her voice laced with a blend of hope and doubt. His heart raced at the weight of her question, sensing an opportunity to unearth the truths buried beneath layers of past grievances. He hesitated, grappling with the best way to articulate the tumultuous metamorphosis he'd undergone. "I've changed, Emily. The past few months have forced me to confront myself, who I was and who I wanted to be. I chose ambition over our relationship, but that left me empty. I've spent too long running away from the truths I needed to face." As she processed his words, Jake displayed the letter as though it were a declaration of war, bearing his vulnerabilities and aspirations in black and white. Every twist of the paper echoed with the dense silence that enveloped them, as though they stood on the precipice of something monumental, the potential for reconciliation or irrevocable separation. "Can you really believe that after everything?" she replied, her expression now searching his. "You think I just forgive and forget?" Her response stung, igniting Jake's internal barrage of insecurities. "I don't expect it to be easy. I only ask for a chance to show you that I'm not who I used to be." In that very instant, the stakes escalated. This wasn't merely about his message. It was an affirmation of everything he hoped to embody moving forward. Emily bit her lip, wrestling with the emotions reflected in her eyes. The flicker of nostalgia shaken by uncertainty simmered beneath a developing armor of skepticism. In her silence, Jake felt the weight of his choices pressing against him, questioning whether he truly deserved a second opportunity. "What do you want from me, Jake?" she pressed again, unearthing a conflict that paralleled his own internal struggle. The question danced around them, prompting introspection. "I want to rebuild what we lost," he breathed, each word thick with yearning. "But more importantly, I need to rebuild myself. I need your honesty, your light to guide me in the right direction." Her brow furrowed as she moved around, her fingers folding the letter. Jake took this moment to examine the small details, how her hair fell gently over her shoulder, and the way the dim light cast soft shadows across her face. Memories collided violently, reminders of laughter once shared, now locked behind formidable walls. Just as Emily opened her mouth to speak, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Her phone suddenly buzzed on the table. She grabbed it, glancing at the screen, a veil of distraction momentarily shutting him out. In that instant, Jake understood the real danger of this conversation wasn't just the words exchanged, but the unyielding influences that loomed in their lives, pulling them apart in ways he hadn't anticipated. He needed to reclaim this moment, realizing it wasn't just about reconnecting with Emily. It was about forming his identity afresh, one not shackled by past failures. Emily, don't let the world intrude on this, he urged, desperation creeping into his voice. We're at a crossroads. It's time to choose what path we forge ahead. As her eyes flickered back to him, he could see the struggle warring within her. Her determination to hold on to past grievances battling against the siren call of potential renewal. What if I can't? She finally whispered, a crack of vulnerability breaking through her hardened exterior. Then I'll find a way to prove to you that I'm worth the risk, he declared, an unexpected conviction surging through him. It dawned on Jake that while he hoped for her acceptance, the ultimate battle lay within his own perseverance. The next few moments hung in the air, alive with the possibilities of emerging paths, unspooled and yet undetermined. Would she take the chance when everything within her instinctively warned against it? Just as Jake braced for the response that could reshape their futures, a realization struck him. He was no longer merely seeking redemption in her eyes. He was forging a new identity with every second ticking away. Freedom lay not in the outcome, but in his willingness to build again, whether or not it was with her. But as he awaited her answer, he felt the shadows of uncharted territory tightening around him. Would he find strength in confrontation or retreat into the familiar comfort of silence? And just outside their nexus of uncertainty, the clatter of life continued, hinting at fresh challenges waiting to emerge and challenge the fragile equilibrium he sought to establish. Jake's pulse quickened, and the air felt electric with anticipation. Emily's silence hung heavily between them, a tangible entity that pressurized the room as if every unsaid truth anchored them both. A kaleidoscope of emotions churned within him: hope, regret, raw fear. The words he had shared were a leap from the edge into uncharted waters, one he had never anticipated making. The phone buzzed again, reverberating through the stillness. Emily glanced at the screen, her brows knitting together as if the news held more weight than the conversation they were engaged in. He could read the uncertainty on her face, a reminder of their fractured past and the uncertainty of their future. Self-doubt gnawed at him now. Had he done enough to bridge the chasm that had opened between them? Emily, please, he said softly, shifting his tone, willing her to focus on him instead of whatever distraction had pulled her away. We owe it to ourselves to have this conversation. I cannot change the past, but I want to change the narrative of our future. She hesitated, her gaze darting between him and her phone. Jake, it's my mom. She's been calling me, she admitted, a hint of frustration breaking through her hesitance. I need to know what's going on, and Jake saw it then, the struggle between her obligations and desires, and he knew he had to step in. You can't let others dictate what happens here. This moment, this is ours. I'm asking you to trust me one more time. With that plea, he felt a deeper realization dawning. He wasn't merely seeking Emily's forgiveness, but her partnership in this journey of personal growth. He could no longer rely on the past as an excuse for inaction or manipulation. It had to be about crafting a respectful, honest connection, a risk that entailed his vulnerability. What if I'm not sure I can trust you yet? Her words landed heavily, betraying the internal struggle she faced. What if I'm not ready to dive back into this? Her hesitation mirrored his own earlier fears. He had taken a leap, but had yet to prove that he could soar rather than fall. Then we take it slow, he proposed, adopting a more pragmatic approach. Let us build something anew without the pressures of the past weighing down on us. He witnessed the flicker of hope she desperately held onto, yet the remnants of doubt still attended the edges of her resolve. The invitation hung in the air. It was as if they were weaving a bridge, painstakingly threading moments of vulnerability into a possibility of trust, one stitch at a time. Moments stretched on, the tension more palpable than ever. Yet Jake felt a shift. It was his chance to show not just what he wanted, but to encourage the vision of who they could become together. He took a deep breath, settling into the realization that whether or not Emily chose to enter this path, he could remain steadfast in his quest for growth. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, her phone vibrated again, more urgent this time. "I have to answer it," she said, a hint of regret coloring her voice. Jake felt a surge of frustration, but then he inhaled deeply, choosing to release the tension much like he had released his grasp on past failures. "Do what you need to do," he replied, forcing calmness into his tone. "I'll be right here, waiting." As she turned her back to him, he felt the impending loss of connection as a weight on his chest. But it allowed him to reflect on what he had uncovered within himself: resilience in the face of uncertainty, and an understanding that his journey of self-forgiveness would proceed whether or not she chose to accompany him. The buzzing phone, Emily's quickened breath, and the shadows of thoughts swirling unspoken inside him collided into a moment of clarity. He could no longer chase approval. He had to embrace his own worth, independent of her response. Emily swung back around after a moment, her eyes shimmering with newfound determination. "I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I'm willing to explore this with you." Jake felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Maybe this conversation had been just the beginning. Now he needed to ensure he didn't simply promise transformation but executed it fully, moment by moment. Yet, as Emily moved closer again, he sensed the echoes of decisions not yet made, of paths unfolding before them like a labyrinth. What would they encounter next? And would their fragile resolve hold under the strain of the past they shared and the future they dared to envision? The clamor of the outside world surged once more, but this time, it only reinforced the urgency of their dialogue. Somewhere deep within him, he felt the threshold of breakthrough, and just beyond it, the possibility of his building a life, one that could either cement their bond or redefine his very existence without her if he must. But could he truly face what lay ahead? Jake Reynolds stood on the cusp of a new chapter in his life, the air crackling with a vitality he had longed for but never dared to embrace. As he and Emily exchanged candid glances, the tension lifted, replaced by a burgeoning awareness of what lay before them, an opportunity to redefine their connection grounded in honesty and authenticity. "I don't know what this looks like moving forward, but I'm willing to take those steps with you if you are," Emily declared, determination blooming in her eyes. Her words hung in the air, a tether binding them to a shared fate, yet the uncertainty of their journey was palpable. Jake felt a rush of emotions surge through him, a mixture of hope and fear, excitement and trepidation. "Yes," Jake responded, feeling his heart swell. "I want to build something real with you. Only what stands between us is the truth. I've spent too long hiding behind facades, and you deserve better." His voice rang clear and firm, empowered by the clarity he had achieved through vulnerability. With that affirmation, the barriers constructed by past mistakes began to crumble. Their intimate conversation created ripples in his newfound confidence, illuminating the path they could traverse together. Jake instinctively reached out for her hand, an unquantifiable yearning to connect with the woman who had shown him the heart of compassion. From that moment, their exchanges transitioned into a shared exploration of how to foster the flames of trust anew. Each conversation unspooled layers of both doubt and possibility, revealing the jagged edges of their complex history while offering glimpses of hope. Weeks melted into days as Jake intentionally formed spaces where honesty could flourish, where he could share both fears and aspirations without pretense. Each time they connected, Emily's laughter danced through the air, a melody echoing in the spaces of his heart that had once felt barren. She embraced his candor, and in turn, she shared her own vulnerabilities, unveiling the impact of his past choices on her life. As Jake rediscovered parts of himself he had long stifled, he struck a chord of creative energy and started to write again. Words flowed effortlessly from deep within him as he poured his experiences into stories about love, loss, and authenticity, themes that resonated with the transformation he was undertaking. Jake decided to turn this renewed passion into a tangible pursuit. He took advantage of an upcoming local literary contest, crafting a narrative that transcended his frostbit past and spun it into something that breathed life. Each page he written bridged his old world and the honest foundation he was forming, a manifestation of the individual he had committed to becoming. When he submitted his story, anxiety washed over him, but it was replaced swiftly by strength. Regardless of outcome, the act of exposing his raw truths was its own triumph, a symphony of perseverance crafted through clarity and creativity. The day of the contest announcement arrived with an electrifying chill in the air. As he stood amongst fellow writers and a gallery of enthusiastic listeners, his heart thudded against his ribs. When the judges announced the winner, Jake felt time freeze, his pulse quickening and his breath quickening as the world around him came into sharp focus. And the winner of the narrative contest is Jake Reynolds. The words fell around him like a cascade of sunlight piercing through a canopy of shadows. In an instant, exhilaration coursed through him as a symphony of applause erupted. He stood, overjoyed and profoundly aware of this moment's significance. With an unyielding bravado, he walked to the podium, embracing the affection radiating from the crowd. He raised his voice, fueled by passion, ready to share his journey of transformation with those who gathered, telling them not just about his triumph, but also of the lessons learned along the way. It's about authenticity, he proclaimed, his voice steady and strong. About shedding the things that bind us to our fears. I was lost within the confines of my own creation. To become me, I had to embrace the truth no matter the cost. His words rippled through the audience, invoking thoughtful nods and warm smiles. As they cheered, he locked eyes with Emily, her face radiant and filled with pride, a warmth flooding his being as she stood anchored, witnessing the evolution of the man she had fought to understand. Through that experience, Jake transcended doubt, finding twofold transformation. He grew as a writer and as a man capable of vulnerability and connection. He breathed freely for the first time, established and confident within his skin, and for the first time in ages, he felt a relentless rush of clarity and purpose rise within him. When the applause diminished, Emily's embrace enveloped him like a cherished memory reborn. "You did it," she whispered, admiration and love threading through her words. "You were brave." In that moment, Jake understood this victory wasn't just about winning a contest. It was a celebration of his liberation, entering a world defined by intentionality and connection. It was about what lay burgeoning on the horizon, the promise of love, loyalty, and shared journeys to come. Jake Reynolds had accomplished what once felt impossibly far, proving to himself that he could own his truth and share it with the world. With Emily standing beside him, he knew the journey was far from over, but that they would navigate the waves together, once more. As he stepped onto the path of uncharted futures alongside Emily, the laughter and longing echoed behind them, both a reminder of the past and an invitation to venture further into what awaited. Now was the time to lean into the magic of life, a vibrant blend of creativity, love, and authenticity unfolding at their feet. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and embrace the journey of personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to share and continue the conversation.